big one. There we go.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Welcome back to Believe in Better with Brian. I am the former Republican mayor of Somerset, New Jersey, Brian Levine, and a former county commissioner, we used to call it a freeholder, here in good old Somerset County, New Jersey. I won these offices multiple times, even though I was out registered. And why was that? Because I could connect to the people, like I'll connect to you. I'll give you good information with some entertainment and maybe a sarcasm or two. So I'm your host, Brian Levine of Believe in Better with Brian. And we believe things in our great country can and will be better than ever. We're heading in the right direction in the good old United States of America. I'm a certified public accountant. I've got an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, so you can expect me to speak on finance, economics, taxes, as well as politics, and a bit of common sense, which is missing these days. And my political accomplishments, I did by myself, no help from the machine, though I did have supporters in and out of the system. So I appreciate you being here. 2, Believe in Better with Brian. So today we've got a pretty good show. In a minute, I'm going to give you the mug of the week, which is going to relate to some things happening in the country. We're going to talk about some wokeness, gone even more bonkers. And we do have people watching who are left-leaning too, but we'll see how you feel on this wokeness gone bonkers. And how we'll fix that when I'm governor. Talk a little bit more about the inefficiency of government, especially relating to the California wildfires, what's going on there. We lost our president, as you know, from funeral, Jimmy Carter, our former president, a few weeks ago. We'll go over his legacy a little bit, the good, the bad, and the ugly about it. And then the DEI controversy in the U.S. government, which will be ending, but that's not where it started. There's been other places that it's been sliding off. And we will end with a hypocrite of the week. He's not quite a hypocrite, I think, because he's just a total weenie. So we'll give him our hypocrite / weenie award this week. So let's see. Our mug this week. Here it is. The National Zoo in Washington, D.C. There's the panda. So, nice place. I got this when I was there many a year ago. And secondarily, we want to remember our wildlife. And this may be funny to some people who never really were hunters or fisher persons, but I find hunters, people who fish, are more concerned often about the environment and wildlife than others. The others are often, they're concerned theoretically, and the hunters, they know what's happening. And they even say, unlike a cow, these animals that they hunt and use for food have lived their lives free. So it's also commemorating, so to speak, the tragedy that just happened in the last day. American Airlines regional jet went down into the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. as it was approaching Ronald Reagan International Airport. I think it's called National Airport. After it collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. It begs the question for all of us, how can an Army Black Hawk helicopter crash in a commercial airline? That will come out And I'm sure there's some human error in there somewhere. Sadly, no survivors are expected. Isn't that terrible? 64 people were on the plane and 3 soldiers on the helicopter. And dive teams have ceased their recovery operations. For now, at least their rescue operations, because they've recovered all the bodies there without moving the fuselage. And they think some people, because of the crash, you can see a little video of it, explosion, that some people may have not even survived to have been flung into the water. That's because of that fireball that resulted. It's the deadliest aviation disaster in over 20 years in the United States. And it's when an American Airlines crashed in New York, 260 people perished. Originally, Donald Trump blamed hiring practices, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, on air traffic controllers, vowed to restore stricter requirements. He was immediately rebuked by Senator Chuck Schumer and others. And at the time of the crash, there was no one in charge of the FAA. Pete Buttigieg had left with the Biden administration, no new person. I'm sure there is an infrastructure in there, but Donald Trump immediately put someone in after the crash. So there's our water in the National Zoo mug, Sing Sing. And there's the picture of Ling Ling, who was the panda then, and Sing Sing. Good panda water. Okay. So now we're going to tell you about woke, gone even bonkers. Oh my goodness. So historically, there's been something called Ladies' Night. And it's been great for business. That's where, let's say, a restaurant, a bar, a ball game, they say, okay, it's Ladies' Night. They come in at half price, or they eat at half price, or drink, or 0 price. They get in for free and there's no cover, things like that. Okay, so that was all nice. Discounted drinks and meals tend to draw a large crowd of women. Hey, Ladies' Night, free. Okay. So all more ladies in there. This like moths to a flame tends to draw in more men, of course, which leads to the packed bars and increasing sales for the business. Good marketing. They say, hey, I will cut the price or elim for women. That'll bring more of them in, which in turn brings the men in. Good deal. Works for everyone all around. However, there's a family-run business in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and it's shutting down. It did shut down because it couldn't afford to operate after Ladies' Night. And you know what? It wasn't Ladies' Night that killed it. They're shutting down after Ladies' Night. It wasn't Ladies' Night that killed it. That worked really well. You know what killed it? A lawsuit against them because of Ladies' Night. What? Wokeness gone bonkers, as I said. Oh my goodness. So here's what happened. So in California, even, here's another one. There's a minor league baseball team in Fresno called the Fresno Grizzlies. They were sued over a promotional event for women. And who did all of this lawsuiting? This thing that gives the United States the reputation for being a litigious society overly. And it's true. San Diego lawyer Alfred Rava. And I've known some moron weenie lawyers in my lifetime too. This guy has filed hundreds of lawsuits across California against women organization, women-only events, the Grizzly promotion, female-led startups, Mother's Day freebies, claiming they're unfair to men. Oh my goodness! What a weenie! Oh my goodness! crybaby. Is there male privilege? Well, in a little bit, there is. A man can be freer about, let's say he wants to go run or walk at nighttime. A woman has to be more apprehensive. Men usually just go in the elevator no matter who's in there. If women go in and someone looks a little off, they're afraid. That's a male privilege. Nothing in society, nothing that changes too easily, but there is. But oh my goodness, you want to give something away. You're not taking it away from the men by having a woman's promotion. You're saying, women, come in. It's good for business. The women are happy. The men are happy. The bar is happy because they're making more money. The suppliers are happy because they're making it. So who doesn't like it? Weenies like Alfred, the crybaby lawyer. Oh my goodness. It's innocuous. It's harmless. Why not let people alone? Give me a break. Let me try this again with the shades on because I can't stand looking at him. Give me a break. Oh, oh my goodness. I'm getting all choked up over this. So in this restaurant, little small mom and pop, small restaurants, they can't afford a friggin' lawsuit often. So this lawsuit comes to them. I'm not sure if insurance can even defend them, but the time they do everything, they lost their business. Don't they have any morals? Don't they have any scruples? Well, they don't. They're idiots, like a lot of the people I've known in my lifetime. Suing just because they get the enjoyment of the stick up their ass of filing the lawsuit against someone, and they can maybe win it on a technicality. Give me a break. Idiots. We got to stop this. If you elect me governor, which maybe I'll run for again someday, and stop the end to this stupid, idiotic, anti-discrimination lawsuits like people like this file. It's that letting people and businesses run their lives, run their businesses. Ugh. So while we're in California, let's look a little bit at some inefficiencies. The California wildfires. President Trump clashed with Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Not exactly, but kind of they did. Here's part of the conversation. Mayor Bass, they were sitting there talking about recovery for the people who lost their homes. And let's look at some of the people who lost their homes. It is tough for them to pay for the recovery. Okay, if you're the Sylvester Stallones of the world, you can do it, though he probably has insurance anyway. But some of these people, let's say they had a good run in a TV show for a little while, or a movie or two, and their career's fading. They might have a multi-million-dollar, $3, $4, $5 million home, but they might be house rich and kind of cash poor. They can't rebuild too easily. We got to let people, and especially now the middle class, they have to be able to get to work, or maybe the work was based in home, or maybe they're so overwhelmed it's hard for them to work, or they just need somewhere to live, or they're paying for a hotel, or they're paying for somewhere else so they can live and do it properly. So they can live their lives properly. And it's tough. You gotta let them get going. So the gist of this conversation was Mayor Bass of LA said, we're going to let people get in. And Donald Trump was like, but let them go right away. Don't hold them back. Let them get in. And there's a political lesson at the end here. So here's what happened. Mayor Bass said, quote, we're going to move as fast as we can, but we want to be safe. We want you to be back in your homes immediately. And Donald Trump said, quote, but the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't cost a lot. And Mayor Bass said, yes, they can do that. And Donald Trump basically said, but you're not letting them do it fast enough. You're making them get permits. This could take 18 months. Maybe they said from LA, oh, maybe it would take a week. And Donald Trump said, just let them do it. Because by the time you, LA, hire the contractors, it's going to be 2 years, which is true. Government is extremely inefficient. And sometimes inefficiency is okay for government because you want some discussion. You want people to do it. It's like the interstate highway system, which everyone loves. It was built for commerce, theoretically, but people can travel all over. It was built quickly, efficiently. Thank you, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, for helping that out throughout the country. And he spearheaded it, and people love it. I'm not sure you could do it today because it's hard to look at some of these things, for the same reasons that the wildfires expanded so much in California, is why it would be difficult to do the interstates today, because someone would be putting a highway through some field and they're afraid that some miniature, minnow, little fish or offshoot of an ant species might get hurt, that you can't put it through here. You're going to have to wind it around, or you just can't do it. And I say from the California wildfires, the reservoirs were empty. There couldn't be infrastructure because people were worried about little things like that. So you have to be practical. You have to be practical too. So Donald Trump was saying, hey, look, and he was talking to people in the audience. I know my people, meaning I know people like this in the audience. He will go there and he will stand, he'll get a dumpster, he'll clean it out, and he'll be ready to move in. And Mayor Bass said, yeah, we're going to let people do it quickly. But she did not say, and I'm waiving things so we can get it done. Look, public safety is good. You've got to do it. But on something like this, just let the people do it. And that's why a lot of people don't understand on the left why Donald Trump could ever win. It's because on things like this, he just wants to get it done. Yes, he's got some issues. Sometimes he's played a little bit fast and loose with the truth. But he does want to get things done. And he's become that hero to the middle class and the working class. So for those who supported Kamala Harris, terrific. It's good you supported her. And they could not fathom the election of Donald Trump. It's things like this that are why. And look, I'm not saying you should like Donald Trump or you should have voted for him. Everyone makes his or her own decision. But when there's people out there in the middle of the country, in North Carolina, dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane, and they see him sitting there in LA saying, just let them do it. There are people who would just do it themselves. And other people might say, but you need the permits, you got to get a contractor, it's got to be the correct contractor. And you get people like the president saying, just let them do it. They want to do it. They'll do a good job. They'll get in, they'll make money, they'll live there, they'll bring the neighborhood back up again. It's like I was appointed in New Jersey to the Red Tape Review Commission by Governor Chris Christie, headed by our great Lieutenant Governor, Kim Guadagno. There were 9 of us on the committee, including her. She did an excellent job. A few people from the legislature on both parties, a few of us from the public. I was an elected person. I was the only non-legislator elected person on the committee. And I loved doing that. We would have people, let's try this again. We'd have people coming before us or organizations, and they tell us, this is inefficient, this isn't working. And you know what? It might go straight to the legislature because they could fix it. It might go straight to the governor's office because you could cut the regulations. Something we pondered a little bit, but most things were done very quickly. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Guadagno, for pushing that along. And you know what? We cut millions and millions of dollars in inequity, in problems, in red tape, / thousands, made thousands and thousands of pages of regulations, just because when it comes to your attention, you can do it a little bit better. And you know what? That worked. That's what I'm hoping will happen on the federal level, with the committee being run by Elon Musk, the Doge, as they call it, because we did it here in New Jersey. And thank you, Governor Chris Christie, for appointing me to that. So our 39th president, sadly, Jimmy Carter, passed away a few weeks ago. He's the longest lived president ever. Yeah, just passed his 100th birthday by a few months. I believe he was the longest married president, too. I think it was 77 years to him and his darling Rosalind Carter. I did see her at a convention once and had her sign her book. She offered book signings, and I did that. So, two things for Jimmy Carter. There's the simple story. Everyone's life tends to come to a little bit of a simple story or a sentence or two. But I'll give you the longer, expanded version of the simple story and then a little bit of truth along the way. So, simple story for Jimmy Carter. And all this is fairly true. He was a peanut farmer. He was a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, the only one to ever become president. He was a Georgia state senator. And get this, does this have rings of today? In the Democratic primary for Georgia state senator in the 1960s. He initially lost the election, but he proved his opponent in the primary won by voter fraud. So the judge reversed it, and he was the senator. You thought that was just a Republican issue, didn't you? He won by proving his opponent was the victor because of voter fraud, and he became the Georgia state senator. Thus, a trajectory for his career. He became governor of Georgia after losing once. He won. He was credited with integrity. He had a big smile, and then he beat the odds. Unknown governor from the South to become president. He had to deal with the Iran hostage crisis. And actually, he said, made it tough because Walter Cronkite, that great journalist, led each newscast with something like, "Good evening. Today is the 242nd day of the Iran hostage crisis," or something like that. They were held for 444 days. Up till Ronald Reagan's inauguration, who was the president right after him, he was working on a deal. And they were released a little bit after noon on January 20th, 1981. A few minutes after Ronald Reagan took the oath of office, they say there's some sectors, which is probably true, that it was done on purpose so it would be under Ronald Reagan's presidency instead of Jimmy Carter's, but he was working on it. And they might have accelerated the deal because they didn't want to deal with Ronald Reagan as much. During that hostage crisis, there was a failed rescue mission. I think he called it off. Jimmy Carter. Maybe he was advised to. One attempted hostage rescue, which is tough. And enough to say it was a failed mission. And I believe early on he said, our goal is to get all the hostages out alive. That could have hurt him a little bit because now Iran knew that he was willing to hold everything back to get the hostages. He's known for a terrible economy. There was stagflation. And stagflation, I'll explain, usually unemployment and inflation run opposite to each other. And here's why. When unemployment is high, that means less people are working. people are earning less money to buy goods and services. If less money is chasing the goods and services, that'll tend to have downward pressure on prices. People don't want to buy as much. Prices will become lower, so people can tend to buy it more. And the opposite, when employment is high, meaning unemployment is low, people are earning more money. They have more money to spend. So they will bid up, in essence, the price of goods, because there's something for $100 and a lot of people are willing to pay it, that'll start to bid it up. People start to pay 101, 105, 110. And so when employment is high, meaning unemployment low, prices tend to go up. Now there was stagflation, meaning unemployment and inflation were both high, which many economists at the time said, what, that can't happen, but it did. There was a problem back in the 1930s when there was the Great Depression. Many economists said, but wait a minute, there's going to be a recovery, and this isn't going to last forever. But it kept on lasting. I believe it was John Maynard Keynes, who was one of the pioneers or one of the founders, really, of Keynesian economics. I think he was the one, might have been Samuelson, looked out their window and said, but wait a minute. You said this can't be the Great Depression. The economy will shake out, but it's not. It's still problematic, and came up with new theories. The same thing with stagflation. And actually, with the terrible economy, that Ronald Reagan played that like a virtuoso on a violin. Part of his campaign was, when he was running against Jimmy Carter, was, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And there were echoes of that with Donald Trump this past election. Basically, isn't inflation bad? Would you do things differently? So that's a bit of how that campaign went. Okay, with Jimmy Carter, he tried to be more of the common man, such as he, during his inauguration, down the street from the Capitol to the White House, he walked, and I think it was Tip O'Neill, who said Jimmy Carter was carrying his bag, so Tip O'Neill took it and took it away so he could carry it, and Jimmy Carter took it back. And Jimmy Carter said, people like to see you carrying your own bag. And Tip O'Neill said to him, yeah, but you know what? Bellhops vote too. So anyway, he tried to be the common man. Part of it was sincere. He did achieve, this is going back to his simple story. He did achieve an amazing Mideast peace deal, the first big one with Egypt, led by President Anwar Sadat at the time, and Israel, led by Prime Minister Menachem Begin. To me, yes, he was great. He put that deal together. It didn't feel like he was always totally in Israel's corner like someone like Donald Trump is. So, when Jimmy Carter ran for re-election, he lost in a landslide to Ronald Reagan. But he did become a goodwill ambassador in his retirement, which is amazing and unprecedented. It was said Jimmy Carter was the outsider, and he looked at Congress like it was the Georgia legislature. And it was said, but you know what? Congress looked at him as if he were the governor of Georgia. He came in as an outsider, and he never quite fit in. But he did have some accomplishments. To be fair, there were problems. He didn't grasp, I think, the economy. He didn't grasp communicating to the people. And he gave a speech on TV. People used to do that much more those days, people present. And it was called the Malays speech. He never actually used the word Malays, but he basically said, I can't regulate, I can't legislate you being positive towards the country and the economy. He didn't know how to inspire. His successor, Ronald Reagan, did know how to inspire. And this is all, forget if you like Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan. He inspired them. Same thing with Donald Trump. Forget if you think he's correct or wrong. There's no question, with over half the country voting for him, he did inspire people. Bill Clinton was pretty good at that too. So his accomplishments, he doubled the national park system. He created FEMA, which we lean on a lot today. The budget deficit decreased. That is unheard of. Politics, people spend like drunken soldiers, but not me. When I was mayor, I left with one of the highest, if not the highest surplus in New Jersey out of 560 plus municipalities. I believe was the highest, even towns which were larger than us. Why? Budgeted right and great philosophy. And didn't spend it if we didn't have to. Jimmy Carter championed industry deregulation. It's kind of funny. He was Democratic. That's more of a Republican thing. Deregulation, cut red tape. But he pioneered it. He championed it. That was good. Middle East peace accords he was great at. In 2002, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He helped normalize relations with China. That's like Richard Nixon basically said, hey, you know what? I'm going to recognize Taiwan's our friend, but I'm going to recognize China, the nation with 1 billion people. Before it's like, oh, we don't recognize. I can't see China. I can't see your 1 billion people. And Jimmy Carter helped normalize even more relations with China. He exacerbated the end of the Soviet Union, though I think personally Ronald Reagan played a far greater role in the collapse of the Soviet Union, and you had people like Mikhail Gorbachev, who went along with it for the greater good. This glasnost and perestroika, I think he had his faults, but in the big picture, Mikhail Gorbachev was one of the great people in history. I hope he gets his due. Jimmy Carter tended to be a little bit more of a micromanager. Like there's the, I think this was alluded to in one of the books I read on their presidency. So anyway, Ronald Reagan got an MX missile deal done where he could get the missile he wanted. Other things were done. He called people to the White House, people being Congress people, leaders. He got them together, Democrats and Republicans. Oh my goodness, Democrats and Republicans working together. Who would have thunk it? It's so an anathema today, and I hate that. When I was mayor, when I was county commissioner, when I was county commissioner director, I worked with the other side, and believe me, when I was mayor, I got a vote on the council. Didn't always work. I, by far and away, hold the record for losing the most votes. Franklin Township, Somerset County, by an 8-1 vote. All the council were usually all Democrat. And me, they voted, all 8 of them voted one way, and I voted another. That's fine. You put it behind you and go on to the next deal because you can work together. Say Ronald Reagan, back in the day, when you could work together. He got people together and they came up with a deal. So it could work. The MX missile could go ahead. I'm pretty sure it was the MX missile. And went to the press. When they asked for details, Ronald Reagan handed it over to some military people in Congress who gave them the details. And it was said that if Jimmy Carter had brought them together, he was a micromanager, extremely brilliant. He would have known and described all the details of the negotiation and the deal that got together. He would have been able to do it himself. The caveat is he never would have been able to get everyone together to make the deal. That was Ronald Reagan's superpower. He could get them together, and he did. So, deep down with Jimmy Carter, forgetting about politics, I think he was a caring person. And he said, quote, "We told the truth." And I believe him. I think there's certain things president has to keep from the American people and the world, but I think he basically did tell the truth. So DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, ending on the federal government. This is a controversy, but it was really started by the corporate sector. Big one, the largest retailer, Walmart, is ending its diversity initiatives. It's removing some LGBTQ related merchandise from the website, winding down a nonprofit that funded programs for minorities. And a growing list of companies have stepped back from the diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI effort. A lot of it's because they felt some heat from conservative activists. It may have not just been pure, but they felt the heat. They didn't want division. They wanted to make money. So others who have stepped back on their DEI effort have been John Deere, Harley Davidson, Ford Motor Company, Tractor Supply, Lowe's, Molson Coors, Caterpillar, Jack Daniels. Oh my goodness. So it's not just the federal government that's doing this. It was started in the private sector. Some wanted to save money, some felt they no longer had to. Some felt the heat from conservative groups. Whatever, it's been the trend in America. So our hypocrite of the week, and this includes the Weenie Award, it's going to go to who we spoke about earlier, San Diego lawyer Alfred Rava, who filed hundreds of lawsuits across California against women's organizations and women's only groups. And as I said, the Fresno Grizzlies promotion to female-led startups to Mother's Day freebies, claiming they're unfair to men. What a friggin' crybaby. Oh my goodness. It helps business. You don't want to go to ladies' night because it's unfair. Oh no, you have to pay full price for a beer and she gets it at half price or no cover. Give me a break. Oh my goodness. It's always been around. So, Alfred Rava, and I'm going to throw it for the Hypocrite of the Week award with you too. Because in case you didn't notice, and maybe you were absent that day they taught it in biology, there's a difference between men and women. Oh my goodness. And it's a damn business, a family-owned business who wants to make a couple bucks and make everyone happy. And as I said earlier, the women are happy. They get a half price. The men are happy because the women are in there. The business is happy because they're making money. The suppliers are happy because more is being bought. You're the only crybaby in here. What a weenie. You are the hypocrite and weenie of the week. Just get out of here. So anyway, always remember, when you think about Believing Better with Brian, which I love having you here, and it's me, your host, Brian Levine, former Republican mayor here in New Jersey, former county commissioner director, and who knows what future office I will bring. I keep getting messages to keep running higher and better, and I would like to do that. Please keep the messages coming. Remember always, the philosophy is integrity, the feeling is empathy, and we will see you here next time. Thank you so much, and be well.